What's up, friends? Thanks for tuning into this story. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing. It really helps me keep these stories coming. While you're here, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. You ever feel like something's watching you from the places you try not to look? That was the question my older sister Natalie asked me the night before everything changed. I'll never forget it, because it was the last thing she said before she disappeared. I guess I should start from the beginning though. Maybe then you'll understand why I haven't slept in a room with corners since I was 13. We grew up in a little town in Missouri, too small for its own zip code, the kind of place where the only grocery store is part gas station, part post office, and everyone knows who's cheating on who. Natalie and I were what you'd call close. Though she was older by 6 years and always had that aura about her, like she knew things the rest of us didn't. Our parents bought the house in 1999, 2 stories, old Victorian, paint peeling off like sunburned skin. But it was cheap, and my mom loved old homes, said they had character. I think what she really meant was ghosts, but she wouldn't say that out loud, not around Dad. He didn't like talk like that. Said fear made you stupid. He wasn't wrong. From the beginning, the house didn't sit right with me. It wasn't haunted in the traditional sense. No creaking doors or flickering lights. It was too still, like it was listening. Like if you dropped a pin, something behind the walls might hold its breath to hear better. It started with the corners. Natalie noticed it first. She'd stay up late reading those cheap horror paperbacks she kept under her mattress so Dad wouldn't confiscate them. One night I woke up to her sitting at the edge of her bed, staring, just staring, at the upper corner of her room, where the ceiling met the wall. "What are you doing?" I asked groggily from the doorway. I had to pee, but froze when I saw the look on her face. "I thought I saw something." Her voice was flat, but her eyes were glassy. She didn't blink. "In the corner?" I asked. She didn't respond, just tilted her head like she was listening to something only she could hear. That night, I crawled into her bed and didn't ask questions. I didn't want answers. But the next morning she was different, distant, and the corners of her room were darker than they should have been, even with the lights on. As the weeks passed, things escalated. I started seeing her do it more often, sitting or standing completely still, eyes fixed on one of the room's corners. Sometimes it was her bedroom, sometimes the living room. Once, I found her in the basement, just standing there in the dim yellow light, staring at the corner behind the furnace. "Natalie?" I asked. She didn't turn around. I touched her arm. She jerked violently and let out this sound, like a gasp and a growl all at once. I stumbled back, and she finally turned to face me. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but like she hadn't blinked in hours. "You shouldn't sneak up on people," she said flatly. "But you were just..." There was something in the corner. Our parents thought it was a phase, teenage hormones, maybe stress. They made her start seeing a counselor, and for a while things seemed to calm down. She stopped staring, smiled more, even started teasing me again. I thought we were past it. But there was this one night, October 13th, 2004. That's the one that stuck with me, burned into my memory like frostbite on skin. The power had gone out after a windstorm and the house was lit only by candles. Mom and Dad were already asleep. I was in my room reading by flashlight when I heard something down the hall. A whisper, maybe, or a breath. It was so soft I thought I imagined it. I opened my door. Natalie was standing at the far end of the hallway, in front of her bedroom, facing the wall. No flashlight, no candle, just standing there in the pitch black, her head tilted sharply up toward the ceiling corner. My blood turned cold. "Natalie?" I whispered. She didn't move. I crept closer, flashlight beam trembling. As I got nearer, I realized she was whispering something under her breath. I leaned in to hear. "Don't gaze back. Don't gaze back. Don't gaze back." Over and over. That's when I saw the shadow. It wasn't her shadow. It didn't move with the flickering light. It clung to the corner like mold, and it pulsed, grew, receded, like it was breathing. I grabbed her arm, hard. She turned to me, face pale, lips trembling. "You saw it, didn't you?" she whispered. "You're not supposed to see it." I didn't know what she meant. I still don't. But that was the last full night we spent together. The next morning, she was gone. No sign of forced entry. Her window was locked from the inside, shoes still by the bed, phone on the nightstand, just gone. Mom was hysterical. Dad was silent for days. The cops searched every inch of the woods behind the house. Nothing. No footprints, no scent trail for the dogs. It was like she'd been plucked out of the world. I told them about the corners, about what she said. They didn't listen, or didn't want to. Eventually they declared her a runaway. But I never ran. I stayed in that house another 3 years, and every night I avoided the corners. Every time I had to glance up at one, I swore I felt something move just out of sight. Not fast, not violent. I didn't leave my room for 3 days after Natalie disappeared. The sun would rise and fall behind the lace curtains, and I'd stay under the covers, watching the ceiling, forcing myself not to look at the corners. I even pushed my bed into the center of the room, away from the walls. It didn't help. The silence had changed. It wasn't empty anymore. It was full, thick, like the house was holding its breath, and something was breathing in the gaps between mine. When I finally ventured out, Mom was at the kitchen table, staring at a cup of cold coffee, still in her robe. Dad was gone. He'd thrown himself back into work like he could hammer the grief away. Neither of them acknowledged me, and I didn't say anything either. We moved through each other like ghosts. But I started noticing the shadows again. They weren't right. They were too dark, like they didn't belong to the objects that cast them. The light would hit a lamp or a chair, and the shadow it made would bend strangely, as if the walls themselves were subtly warped. Corners began to look sharper, more jagged. I once caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, and for a split second it looked like I had no eyes. I started sleeping during the day, hiding in the basement, where the only corners were between the concrete floor and the pipes. It was cold and smelled like mildew and old metal, but it was better than upstairs, safer. At least I thought so. Until I heard her voice. It came one night, around 2 a.m. I'd built a little nest of blankets near the boiler and had just started to drift off when I heard it. Soft and cracked like dry leaves. "Ellie?" I bolted upright. "Ellie?" It came again, quieter this time, from the far end of the basement, beyond the laundry machines, in the dark. "Natalie?" My voice cracked. Silence. I grabbed my flashlight and slowly scanned the far wall. Then, movement. Something shifted in the corner. I swear it pulled back like smoke retreating into a pipe. I couldn't see what it was, not fully, but I caught the outline of something wrong. Like a person, stretched too long, their limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. I didn't sleep that night. I stopped going into the basement after that. Mom deteriorated fast. She'd always been sensitive, said she could feel energies in places, even as a kid. At first, she just stopped doing the dishes. Then she stopped showering. Then she stopped speaking. I found her one evening sitting in the living room in the dark, staring into the corner by the fireplace. But she didn't respond. I stepped closer. Her eyes were wide and unblinking, and there was a line of drool down her chin. "Don't look at it," she whispered, voice hoarse. My skin prickled. "Don't look at it. It sees through you. It wants you to look." I tried to pull her away, but she resisted, screamed like I was burning her. Dad had to come home early that night. He didn't speak to me, just helped her to bed and locked their bedroom door. She never came out again. The house began to rot in strange ways, not physically, no mold or crumbling wood, but spiritually. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the walls were forgetting what they were made for. I would wake up and the furniture would be rearranged. Corners where there hadn't been any, shadows in new places. One night, I opened my closet and found nothing inside, just a deep black void where the back wall should be. I threw the whole thing shut and shoved a dresser in front of it. I didn't tell Dad. He wouldn't believe me. He didn't want to. A week later, I heard Natalie again. This time, she was crying. It was late, nearly 3 a.m., the witching hour Natalie used to call it. I was lying on my back in the middle of my room, flashlight pointed at the ceiling, when I heard it. A soft sobbing, muffled, like someone crying behind a thick curtain. It came from the corner. No, not a corner. All of them. Every corner of the room started to breathe. I could hear it. Whisper-soft inhales, shallow exhales, and beneath it all, Natalie's weeping. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move. And then, from the deepest corner, one where the walls didn't quite meet right anymore, I heard her. "Billy, I'm not me anymore." The lights came on suddenly. Dad was standing in the doorway, pale and trembling. "You heard her too," I said. He didn't answer, just looked at the corner and then closed the door. I didn't sleep that night either. A few days later, he packed a bag and left. Didn't say a word, just left a note that said, "Don't stay here, it's feeding." Mom was already lost, somewhere in her own mind. I don't think she even noticed. That was the day I realized the house was never empty, not even for a second. Something lived here. And it didn't just haunt people, it unraveled them. You know what's strange? The house never looked any different to outsiders. Cops came, social workers, neighbors. They always said the same thing. "Nice place. Shame about your sister. Let us know if you need anything." None of them stayed long. They always avoided the corners, even if they didn't realize it. I started marking them. Every corner in the house. Little chalk X's, salt lines, nailed mirrors in the diagonals. It didn't stop it, but it confused it. Bought me time. But time runs out. There's something I didn't tell anyone. Not the cops. Not the social worker who came sniffing around after Dad disappeared. Not even my aunt, who offered to take me in after they found Mom sitting in the tub, fully dressed, whispering to the drain. It's about what happened the night I tried to leave. I was 16 and the house had grown. Hungry. By then the corners weren't just places. They were openings, gaps, breaches into something I didn't have words for. You could feel it if you got too close, like cold air trickling over your skin or static prickling the back of your neck. Some corners were worse than others. I had names for them. The one that hums, the one that watches, the one Natalie looked into. I kept journals, scratched in them by flashlight, pages filled with sketches of angles that didn't make sense, and sentences I didn't remember writing. One said, "She's inside now, but not inside out, just bent." I don't remember writing that, but I remember what happened the night I tried to run. It was just after midnight. I had packed a bag, clothes, cash from Dad's old toolbox, and my journals. I didn't care where I went, just away from this place. I made it to the bottom of the stairs when the house went still. Not quiet. No wind, no creaks. Even the bugs outside had gone silent. That's when I felt it. Something watching from every corner, not just the physical ones, but the metaphysical ones. The places where thought folds. Behind the TV, the angle of the ceiling fan blade, the bend in your neck when you try not to look up. A voice followed, not a whisper, not Natalie. It came from the air, deep and cold and layered like voices stacked on top of each other. "Leave and we follow." I dropped the bag, ran back to my room, cried until dawn. That was the first time I'd thought about ending things. Not because I wanted to die, but because I didn't want to take it with me into the world. I didn't want anyone else to hear that voice. But then something changed. I started seeing her again. It started with reflections. I'd catch her in the window glass, standing behind me, mouth slightly open like she was trying to speak. Her eyes were always wrong. Not glowing, not blank, just too aware. Sometimes I'd see her shadow in the hallway, never moving. Other times I'd wake up to find little things on my desk. A paper flower folded from notebook pages. A photo of us from the summer before she vanished. Corners burned slightly. Once, a tooth. A molar. I never checked my own mouth to see if I was missing one. I didn't want to know. One night, I made the mistake of looking under the bed. It was one of those moments. You drop something, bend down, glance underneath without thinking. And there she was, Natalie, or what was left of her. Her body was crumpled in the way paper folds when you twist it, her arms bent in reverse, and her hair drifting upward like she was underwater. Her eyes locked with mine, and her mouth moved. "It's not me," I screamed, crawled backwards so fast I slammed into the dresser. But when I dared to look again, nothing was there. Only dust. And that smell, sweet rot, like fruit that's been sitting too long in a sealed room. I burned my journals after that, buried the ashes in the backyard. I thought if I could forget, maybe it would let me go. But the house had other plans. The night before I left for good, I heard footsteps in the walls. Not rats, not pipes, steps. Slow, careful, deliberate, pacing just behind the plaster. I stood with my ear against the wall, heart hammering. They stopped, and then a whisper from just inches beyond. "You'll be next." I made a decision, not to run, not to hide, to look full into the corner Natalie had stared into that first night. I thought maybe if I understood what she saw, I could end it, or at least take some piece of her back from wherever it had her. So I waited until 3:33 a.m., candle lit, room silent, heart steady, and I stared. The shadows deepened, the room faded, the corner grew wider. It opened, folding back like a pupil dilating to reveal a deeper darkness. And I saw a place that wasn't a place. A hallway made entirely of corners. Endless intersections, bending in ways no geometry should allow. And things living in them. Some had faces. Some used to. All of them were watching me. And in the very center, Natalie. Or her shadow. Stretched and smiling, not a friendly smile. She reached out. "It's warmer here." I blinked and it was gone. Just a wall, just a corner, but something stayed with me, inside. It's been 15 years since I left that house. Sometimes I wake up not knowing where I am. I'll open my eyes and wait, just wait, for the corner to breathe again. But it doesn't, because my room now is round. No sharp angles, no seams. I moved to a yurt in Oregon, off-grid, solar lights, burnt sage, no mirrors. And still, I feel it. That cold, creeping sensation behind the eyes, like a gaze reaching out, trying to find mine in the dark. After the night I stared into that corner, the night I saw Natalie, I knew I had to go. Not just leave the house, erase it. I set fire to the place 3 days later. Waited until just after midnight, when the moon was low and the house was asleep. I poured gasoline through every hallway, especially soaking the corners. I remember standing in the living room, flicking the lighter with shaking hands, whispering a prayer I didn't know I believed in. And just before the flame caught, I heard it again. "She's with us now." And then, laughter. Not cruel, playful, like children playing hide and seek. The corner pulsed, just once, and then the fire roared. The house burned fast. By the time the fire trucks arrived, it was already gone, collapsed in on itself like it had been hollowed from the start. The firefighters said they'd never seen anything like it. No sign of accelerants, even though I knew I used nearly 2 gallons of gas. "Old houses go up like matchsticks," one of them said, but I knew better. I saw what spilled out of the walls, just for a moment. Black shapes, slithering into the soil. They never found Natalie's remains. Not a single bone, no teeth, nothing. Same for my parents. I told the authorities they'd gone missing years ago. Told them about the mental breakdowns, the disappearances. I played the role, the orphan, the survivor, and it worked. No one questioned it. But I never forgot what I saw. Because when the flames finally died and I crept back through the ash and daylight, just once, just briefly, I found something in the dirt where the basement corner used to be. A page from one of my burned journals, untouched. And on it, in Natalie's handwriting, I didn't tell anyone about that either. I left Missouri, changed my name, got a job out west doing trail maintenance in the mountains, lived light, no possessions, no corners. But no matter how far I moved, something followed. It started small. Shadows stretching the wrong way. Corners where there shouldn't be any. Folds in curtains, stacks of boxes, even the bend of elbows caught in my periphery. Then came the dreams, always the same. A house made of corners, hallways that folded in on themselves like origami. Natalie standing in a window that didn't open, mouthing things I couldn't hear. And behind her, something tall, bent, smiling. One night, I woke up with dry blood under my fingernails. No cuts, no injuries, just blood. I checked every inch of the yurt, nothing. Except in the corner, yes, the corner I swore I had eliminated. A single print in the dirt. Not a foot, not a hand. Something in between. I started sleeping outside after that, built a fire ring, slept under the stars with my back to the open. But the sky has corners too. That's when I realized it was never just about the house. It's everywhere. Corners are part of the architecture of reality. We built our lives on straight edges, right angles, and something older than us hides in those shapes. It was never trapped in that house. The house was built for it, maybe by it, maybe it is the house. And when I burned it down, I didn't destroy it, I just set it loose. I've kept to myself for years. Avoided buildings. Avoided people too. I don't want to see it take someone else, but lately, I've started hearing Natalie again. Not in dreams. Not in corners. In my own voice. I'll say something out loud and the echo comes back a beat too late. And it's her. Same cadence, same breath, but the words are always wrong. Always something she never said. Like, we never left, you were always here, there is no outside. That's why I'm writing this now. Because I can feel it again. Growing. Like something pressing up against the walls of my thoughts, searching for a crack. I think it's almost through. And if it gets out, if it spreads, you'll see it too. Not at first, but one day you'll be brushing your teeth, or watching a movie, or turning out the lights before bed, and you'll feel it. That prickle, that slow, cold drip of attention, and you'll look, not on purpose, just a glance. But that's all it needs. That's all it ever needed. I wasn't planning to go back. For years I kept moving, small towns, forest edges, even a stint on a converted fishing boat where the ocean curved around me like a safety net. I avoided right angles, learned to spot bad architecture the way some people can sniff out mold, and I always felt mostly safe until I saw the house again. It was on a postcard, one of those generic little racks outside a gas station in Utah. Canyons, antelope, sunsets, and there, tucked between them, a faded photo of a 2-story colonial with white siding and a cracked porch. My house, burned, flattened, destroyed, but here it was, in full. But I bought it without thinking, stared at the back for an hour. There was no return address, no publisher, just 2 words printed in fine, glossy text where a stamp would go. We remember. I got in my truck and started driving that night. No bag, no food, just a crowbar, a headlamp, and the last piece of chalk from my old stash, the one I used to mark the corners. I didn't use GPS. I didn't need to. The roads curved toward it. The land bent in ways that felt familiar, like muscle memory buried in bone. And when I arrived, I knew. Because it wasn't just the house. It was the corner of the world where it had always waited. It was standing again, exactly where it had been. No scorch marks, no fire damage, not even fresh paint. The same peeling shutters, the same cracked porch step I used to trip over every Halloween. But now, it was cleaner, hollowed out, too perfect, like a replica. Or a memory polished until it forgets it's supposed to fade. The front door was open. Of course it was. Inside smelled like nostalgia soaked in formaldehyde. Familiar, but too still, too staged. There were voices in the walls again, muffled, close, like someone whispering into a glass. The floors didn't creak under my feet. The air tasted old. And the corners, they were everywhere. Worse than before, sharper, deeper. Some were impossible. Angled folds that disappeared when you stepped closer, but lingered at the edge of vision like oil slicks on glass. I passed the living room where Mom used to knit. Her chair was there, but empty. In the hallway where Dad would hang his jackets, one still swinging gently on the hook. The staircase Natalie had vanished on. Stop. I heard it. From the top of the stairs. Her voice. Again. Eli, you made it back. We missed you. I should have run, but I didn't. I climbed those steps one by one until I stood at the door to her old room. I reached for the knob and felt it. The breath, right against my ear. Not wind, not air. Breath. And a whisper. You've been looking at corners all your life, but have you ever wondered what looks back? I opened the door, and there she was, Natalie. Sitting in the middle of the room, legs crossed, head tilted slightly too far. She smiled when she saw me, but her eyes, they weren't hers. They were too dark. Not black, deep, like looking down a well that never ends. I saved your room, she said. I didn't respond. Couldn't. The room was wrong. It wasn't just bigger. It kept growing. The walls stretched as I looked. Corners unfolded into hallways. Hallways spiraled into rooms. Rooms bled into staircases. And every one of them had something waiting in the corners. Shape. Watching. Smiling. I took one step back, and the floor beneath me shuddered. It wanted me to stay. To choose. To accept it. Natalie stood. She took my hand. It was cold and soft and not skin. I missed you, Eli, she said, voice brittle. And then, behind her, it came forward, the thing in the corners. No form, just a suggestion, like your brain trying to see shapes in the dark that it knows shouldn't exist. It leaned out. A voice, dozens layered into one, spoke through it. You don't have to run anymore. And I believed it. God help me, for a moment I wanted to believe it. Because there's a strange kind of comfort in surrender. No more watching corners, no more waiting for the dark, just letting it take you. But then I looked at Natalie again. Really looked, and I saw her fingers trembling, not because she was cold, because she was still fighting it. Some part of her, buried deep, still knew, still wanted out. So I did the only thing I could. I let go of her hand, and I turned my flashlight on full beam, right into the darkest corner, and I screamed, not words, just sound, a roar, a refusal, a primal human no that I poured every ounce of will into, and for a second, just a breath, the corner folded, the shapes recoiled. Natalie collapsed, and I ran. I made it out. Barely. The house didn't chase me. It didn't need to, because it knew. It already had me. That was a year ago. Since then, I've felt the corners closing in again. In airports, in bookstores, in quiet apartments with too many bookshelves. It's slower now, subtle. but I still hear it sometimes when I close my eyes. There is no house, there is only the shape, and you fit it perfectly, so listen carefully. If you ever walk into a room and feel colder near the edges, if you ever see a shadow that bends the wrong way, if a loved one stares into the corner a moment too long, don't call a priest, don't take a picture, don't try to understand, just turn around and leave, because it only needs one look, just one, and once it has you, you'll start seeing corners everywhere. Thank you for watching this story. If you're new, please subscribe, like the video, and share it. Let us know your thoughts about this story in the comments.